All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started and everyone can continue to join in. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your participation and hope you are all well. My name is Vanessa Scott and I work in industry relations and innovation here at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And I'm very pleased to be moderating the new Scripps Innovation webinar that we have today, hosted by the Scripps Corporate Alliance. Just a bit of background about Scripps. Before we get started, we are a division of UC San Diego that was originally founded in 1903. We have 2,300 students, researchers, and staff in our community. We produce about 700 research publications a year and receive $159 million in sponsored research annually. And we are proud to be home to 27 Nobel Prize, National Academy, Royal Society, and National Medal of Science winners. Our mission at Scripps Oceanography is to understand and protect the planet and investigate the oceans, earth, and atmosphere to find solutions to our greatest environmental challenges. This webinar series is focused on two of our main strategic research initiatives, the first being risk and resilience to hazards, which we will talk more about today. The second being human health in the oceans. This series occurs quarterly, so please stay tuned for upcoming webinars, which you can find out more information on our website. And you can also find recordings of past webinars on our website. The goal of this series is to inform industry partners of our latest research and innovations, applied research tools, and ways to collaborate with our scientists and community to find mutually beneficial solutions. So here's just a quick overview of the agenda for today's talk. Before I hand it over to the speakers, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded and will be available afterwards on our website and will also be emailed to you, so please feel free to share with your colleagues. Also, we will be having time for a Q&A panel discussion at the end. So please feel free to enter your questions throughout the presentation through the Q&A button in the bottom center of your screen. If you would like to direct it specifically to one of our panelists, just please make a note of it there. If for some reason we're unable to get to your question during the Q&A portion, we'll make sure we follow up with you afterwards. And with that, I am very pleased to introduce our first speaker today, Rear Admiral Michael Johnston, who currently serves as the U.S. Coast Guard's Assistant Commandant for Acquisition and Chief Acquisition Officer. In this role, he directs efforts across all Coast Guard acquisition programs, including support, personnel, finance, contracting, and research and development activities to execute the service's acquisition portfolio. Prior to this, he served as Program Executive Officer and Director of Acquisition Programs, where his duties include management oversight of all Coast Guard acquisition projects for modernization and recapitalization of surface, air, command and control, and logistics assets in support of the Coast Guard's multiple maritime missions. And with that, I would like to hand it over to you, Admiral Johnston.
Well, thanks, and good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up, Vanessa. Yeah, all right, outstanding. So I'd like to thank the Scripps Institute for Oceanography for the opportunity to highlight the Coast Guard Blue Tech Center of Excellence, and Vanessa in particular, for all your efforts in setting this up and give us an opportunity to say a few words. I noticed when I got my invite to do this introduction, the words, few words were highlighted in bold. So I guess I'm gonna take that as direction and keep it relatively short because I want to give the time to Jennifer and Peter as the Blue Tech team there to go over more detail of what we're all about. But I do want to set the scene, if you'll allow me. I mean, knowledge and information are growing at exponential rate, and technologies continue its asymptotic rise. And although the Coast Guard's been around for 230 years, we cannot do the things the way that we used to do it. The environment's changing, the threats are changing, the resources are changing, the tools are changing, and we need to change. We need to be innovative, creative, and bold in our concepts of operations. And as we all know, change is hard. And the cornerstones of this change are our partnerships, our synergies, and our empowered leaders. But the first step in this journey is awareness. Awareness. I think we have always partnered with NOAA. For years. My first ship on the Coast Guard cutter Cowslip was a buoy down at Portsmouth, Virginia. My very first buoy was actually a NOAA buoy, a couple of almost 100 miles off the coast that had broken loose, and we did environmental work with them. And I personally have worked with NOAA. We even had cross deck watch officers for practicing on driving ships. And so Tim, great to have another partner and work closely with you guys on this. But Scripps is a new partnership for us and a valuable one. All of the aspects of our change journey come together here, right? Starting with awareness, right? You all are creating this wonderful forum to get awareness. You are facilitating all of these partnerships and help find the synergies that we need that'll benefit all parties. And of course, one of the things needed for any change is getting the right people on the bus. And on this bus, we have Jennifer and Peter, who are definitely the right ones to lead us through this next stage. They're motivated, empowered to color outside the lines, and they think about the art of the possible every single day. With all of your help, I'm sure we will find those gems that we can execute to continue to deliver mission-critical services to the nation in these very dynamic times. So with that, I want to introduce Jennifer, who we stole from NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. Got her to come home to her hometown near closer to Los Angeles, and her and Peter are really just jumping in there and working with Scripps, NOAA, and all of industry there to really think about and develop our next steps and how we are going to be doing operations in the near future. And so I will leave it at that and turn it over to Jen to take the lead on the presentation of kind of what we're working on now. Jen?
Great. Thank you, Admiral Johnson, for the introduction and for your remarks. So my name is Jennifer Ibovin, and I am one of the 2 program managers at the Coast Guard's Blue Technology Center of Expertise. I'll be providing an overview of the Blue Tech COE and the new approach that we're taking to provide guidance and opportunities for creators of innovative technologies that have the potential to really enhance Coast Guard mission readiness and operational performance. I'd like to take some time briefly to give an introduction to the team. So myself and my colleague, Dr. Peter Van Deventer, are joint program managers with the Coast Guard's Blue Tech COE. And our goal is really to better connect the Coast Guard with the private sector, academia, nonprofits, and other federal agencies that make up this innovative blue technology sector. Okay, next slide. Great. So we'd like to start this presentation with a bit of background of the Coast Guard and the establishment of the Blue Tech COE. So the U.S. Coast Guard is the principal federal agency responsible for maritime safety, security, and environmental stewardship in U.S. ports and waterways. The Coast Guard has a very unique blend of military, law enforcement, humanitarian, regulatory, and diplomatic capabilities. In 2018, the Save Our Seas Act authorized the Coast Guard to establish a Blue Technology Center of Expertise. And again, this is really to provide guidance and opportunities for creators of innovative technologies to demonstrate new capabilities to the Coast Guard. So in 2019, the Coast Guard partnered with UC San Diego Scripps Institution of Oceanography to establish the Blue Tech COE. And as you can see in the right-hand corner here is a photo of our ribbon cutting ceremony. Scripps is really one of the oldest and largest centers for ocean and earth sciences, and it is known for developing innovative technologies. So really, this makes Scripps a wonderful foundational partner to help open the doors for us to grow our network within the blue tech community. Next slide, please. Great, so let's get into what blue technology is. Blue technology is defined by Congress as any technology, system, or platform that is designed for the use or application above, on, or below the sea surface. Blue technology must be applicable to Coast Guard operational needs, and it must be capable of providing continuous or persistent coverage. Next slide. Great. So with this understanding of blue technology, what is the Coast Guard's mission with the Blue Tech COE? And I think that's really nicely summed up by Vice Admiral Michael McAllister's quote from the ribbon cutting ceremony. He stated that the Blue Technology Center of Expertise will create a unique pipeline for the rapid identification and implementation of new maritime technologies into critical Coast Guard operations around the globe. The Coast Guard really views the Blue Tech COE as one of its official conduits to the technology sector. Next slide, please. Great. So the Blue Tech COE is interested in exploring technologies that address the Coast Guard's 11 missions. Our motivation is really mission impact, and we're looking for technologies that will help the Coast Guard stay ready, relevant, and responsive. As you can see, the Coast Guard proudly performs many missions, and so there's a wide range of opportunities for creators to bring forth cutting-edge blue technologies that will assist the Coast Guard. So right now, we're just going to take an opportunity to play a short video for you that gives an overview of our 11 missions and also a better understanding of the type of daily work that the Coast Guard takes on. Great. So thank you, Vanessa, for playing that. And when we're ready, we'll go to the next slide. There we go. Great. So with this understanding of the Coast Guard's missions, we'd like to share some examples of blue technologies that we're foraging for. It's important to keep in mind that we're interested in meeting with innovators that have technologies from various technology readiness levels, and we really encourage creativity. So, for example, how can a technology be used for multiple mission needs or be applicable in multiple Coast Guard regions? We're looking at every new technology from various perspectives of who would or could use it in the Coast Guard for right now, but also in the future. And we hope that this perspective will inspire the innovators that we'll be working with to look at their technologies from the same wide-angle lens. The Blue Tech COE aims to really position the Coast Guard at the forefront of emerging blue technologies and really prepare the service for the future of maritime operations. So with that, I'd like to just go through a list of technologies of interest. So we'll start with advanced computing capabilities, and this will cover data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, technologies for collecting and utilizing information that may improve Coast Guard operations and also business models. Next generation domain awareness, and this will cover advanced sensors, autonomous vehicles, technologies that will drastically mitigate risk and also extend to the reach of Coast Guard operations in the maritime domain. Mobility solutions for operations and support activities, and this will cover, emergent tools to enhance frontline operations, tools that allow members to collaborate and execute on scene and on demand. And finally, enhanced technology systems, systems that increase operator safety and security with technologies to improve Coast Guard missions and also logistics for search and rescue, law enforcement, environmental protection, and disaster response missions. Next slide. All right, so I'd like to go into some of our activities. Our process with the BlueTech COE is to first start by conducting market research. We then evaluate technologies and identify mission needs, and then we promote awareness of those technologies and their abilities to enhance mission readiness and operational performance within the Coast Guard. We also want to promote knowledge transfer and information exchange between the Coast Guard, private sector, academia, nonprofits, and other federal agencies. We aim to increase awareness of Coast Guard policies, procedures, and business practices to vendors, and also to support the Coast Guard districts and the Research and Development Center through access to the technology sector. The BlueTech COE communicates regularly with our colleagues at Coast Guard headquarters, the Research and Development Center, our domain leads, and other Coast Guard stakeholders across the country. We really aim to ensure that the products and the technologies we encounter have visibility with a wide range of our Coast Guard colleagues. Next slide. Oh, great. So the BlueTech COE is really, in early phases of its development. And we're starting down the path of how we aim to make a tangible difference for the Coast Guard. So we're beginning conversations and we're building relationships and exploring new technologies. The BlueTech COE is open to meeting with creators of technologies from all around the world. And we're really excited to see how those technologies will fit into the Coast Guard's journey of innovation and blue tech. Please be sure right now to either take a screenshot of these important links, or you can find additional information that's being posted to the chat window right now. To contact the BlueTech COE, our email is bluetech@uscg.mil, or you can also find us on the first floor of Von Hall upon return to campus. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you to Scripps for the opportunity to have us introduce the BlueTech COE and Admiral Johnston as well. And we look forward to your questions during the Q&A session.
Great. Thank you so much for that great informative presentation, Jennifer. Again, everyone, please feel free to enter your questions throughout the session, but we will be holding them to the end for the Q&A panel discussion. And with that, I am very excited to introduce our next speaker, Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who is the Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and the Deputy Administrator for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. He served as the Acting Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and NOAA Administrator, as well as served 32 years in the U.S. Navy, completing his service as Oceanographer of the Navy. In his current position, Admiral Gallaudet leads NOAA's Blue Economy activities that advance marine transportation, sustainable seafood, ocean exploration and mapping, marine tourism and recreation, and coastal resilience. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Admiral Gallaudet.
Thanks, Vanessa. Well, wonderful. It's great to be here, and I'm very excited to talk about our partnership with the Coast Guard as well as Scripps. I think I have two slides, if you could push there, the first one. So our partnership with the Coast Guard is extensive and longstanding, and Admiral Johnston hit on that well. And here are some of the things we can just talk to you briefly. Right now, in the wake of Hurricane Laura, we are working together in emergency response down in Louisiana. And we're doing things like cleaning up hazmat and oil spills from derelict vessels and rescuing people. And we apply our environmental information to help the Coast Guard do that. In the field of maritime navigation, of course, our Coast Guard is working to promote safe and efficient commerce, and we provide that critical foundational data such as charts for our U.S. Exclusive Economic Zone. In the area of marine debris, we also work closely together. And in fact, it's interesting, you highlighted this, Jennifer, that the Blue Tech COE was codified in the Save Our Seas Act, the primary provisions of which are to respond to and prevent marine debris and litter. And in fact, I was in the White House Oval Office when the president signed that act in 2018. So that's a great area of work there too. And then we collaborate closely in Arctic research, and we've been on board nearly every mission for the Coast Guard cutter Healy up in the Arctic. And then in the area of law enforcement, this is one that's getting great attention. We work together for fisheries enforcement. And the reason I can't be on video right now is I had just left a White House meeting to address China's illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing activity around the world. So the Coast Guard and NOAA are fast partners there, working to counter China's illegal and environmental degradations in that area. And then finally, uniformed officer training is conducted at the Coast Guard Academy, where our cadets or midshipmen were trained with the Coast Guard's midshipmen, and I think that's just a great way to get that partnership off the bat with every commissioned officer starting out together training. And then innovative technologies. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is something we want to do more with you together, and certainly leveraging the Blue Tech COE. We have identified 6 S&T areas of focus that we have written strategies for and developing action plans. Here you have the listing, and Jennifer touched on some of these, like artificial intelligence and UXS, which is our uncrewed systems, or some people say unmanned. We're going to move towards the term uncrewed, but either way, it's autonomy. And we are using drones on the surface, under the sea, and aerial drones to map shoreline, to survey fisheries and marine mammals, to survey marine debris, and do all our mission areas with those technologies that are improving our efficiency and performance. And just last year, I went to the border in Texas with Coast Guard Commandant Schultz, who looked at the UAS operations, and we agreed to do more uncrewed system work together, sharing data, sharing development, and I think it's an area that we can do a lot more in the Blue Tech COE. In fact, Scripps and NOAA signed an agreement just this month to advance our UXS partnerships. I list some other areas here like cloud computing and data. We have efforts going on there, and that is perfectly aligned with the COE's way ahead. And so we're looking forward to partner with you more on that. An area which is more unique to us, we call omics, which is genetics and environmental DNA or microbiological big data, a transformational technology which will allow us to do our traditional fishery surveys in an order of magnitude increased efficiency and reduced costs. So that's an exciting area too that we'll work together on. And then lastly, this area of citizen science is important because this is, cell phone technology and information technology in general is allowing, people in general, the public, to contribute data to all of our missions. So harnessing, the power of the crowdsourced data is an area that we're also moving forward with to improve our efficiency and performance in our mission areas. So we're very excited to be partnering closely with Scripps and the Coast Guard, and in fact, very soon, understanding with DHS's S&T office. And so we're looking forward to doing more work together in these important areas. And I couldn't be happier now to pass it off to my Scripps classmate and someone who is probably an innovator par excellence like no other, and that's Dr. Eric Terrell. Take it away, Eric.
Oh boy, those are big shoes to fill. But thanks for passing the baton over to me, Tim and Admiral Johnston. Again, both of you really just want to express my gratitude not only to the speakers here, but I've been amazed our visitor count to this online seminar here is surpassing at least my expectations. So thank you everybody for jumping in here. I think kind of my 15 minutes of fame here is to really kind of put a little meat on the bone related to some of the technologies, science programs here at Scripps, maybe things you might not hear about through the normal channels that Scripps broadcasts through the communications office, of how we have support many of those missions that are joint across the Coast Guard and NOAA, and why I guess it's my opportunity for a humble brag here for Scripps in terms of the excellence happening here and how it relates to mission agencies. Next slide. So to set the stage, I think everybody's very familiar with Scripps. I just want to touch a few bullets that we do have really a global footprint, and being Pacific based, especially there's quite a bit of activities happening here at Scripps that do support those joint missions here in the Pacific, but also on an entirely global basis. And there's quite a bit of fabrication and assembly facilities here too. So we begin looking at technology. Scripps was really concerned with an end-to-end of not only in the conceiving and initial stage development of technologies, but actually the operational of proto-operational systems that you'll hear about as I talk through a set of vignettes here of what we're doing. And I think most important, Scripps is really well poised for the teaching and training of the next generation of the blue technologists and the science and policy and managers. Looking at some of the participants, I see some Coast Guard officers that are actually had been students here at Scripps, so great to see. And of course, there's a legacy of Scripps partnership over the 50 years of NOAA's existence. Next slide. One of those legacy partnerships is associated with a emergent technology called high frequency radar for mapping ocean currents. And this is just a map of the United States showing where these antenna systems that map real-time ocean currents. More importantly, as we kind of move counterclockwise, you see little vignettes here, pictures. This is up in the Costco Busan area. Scripps supported NOAA's mission to provide real-time information to the Coast Guard. Refugio Beach is the next image you see down there. Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf of Mexico, of course, in the earliest days of Deepwater Horizon. Scripps quietly worked with NOAA and the Coast Guard and the command center that was established there to provide the best oceanographic information that we were aware of, so that it could be used for forecasting sort of the responses and more efficient responses during any of these spills. More recently, search and rescue operations, which is also part and parcel. There's well-established MOUs for NOAA to provide state-of-the-art, highly technical information to the Coast Guard, and Scripps has worked with NOAA over the years on improving those data sets. Next slide. So this is just a picture of what Refugio Beach looked like, and for the audience, you get to see this map here of little arrows. Those are the where the currents are moving the water. This allowed the Coast Guard to actually do trajectories out of the NOAA's hazmat response unit, or it's called ORR, Office of Response and Restoration, would make forecasts based upon this information, upon which then the Coast Guard would take action. Next slide. And these systems are all operated through Scripps. Operating the data networks, the communications of it, and then working with the overall IU's partnerships to link those data together. Another area, and this is very relevant, I think, to Tim's commute home from the White House, is Scripps has been supporting, I think, what both NOAA and the Coast Guard would refer to as the tyranny of distance and time, where there's many challenges of IUU and fisheries enforcement just because of the sheer vastness, especially in the Pacific region. The Hawaii National Monument and the Greater EEZ of Hawaii poses a number of challenges, as well as the Compact of Free Association countries, upon which the U.S. has a defense responsibility to work with these countries in their fisheries protection and EEZ enforcement. Some examples of where Scripps has worked in this field is looking at fishing predictions based on environmental cues, developing machine learning, artificial intelligence techniques to actually make predictions upon where we think the greatest fishing may occur, because that can be used, for example, cue surveillance aircraft or surface craft. And it's a very big ocean, and so having ability to cue other types of surveillance techniques is really a kind of a growing interest by the communities who are responsible for that. We've also worked just developing strategies with countries in terms of how do they efficiently do monitoring, control, and surveillance. This is a plan here that we worked with the Republic of Palau to establish as they developed a national marine sanctuary for marine conservation purposes. Scripps was able to partner with them to help develop their surveillance plan for their EEZ. Last example is there are boots on the ground that Scripps actually installing and maintaining surveillance systems. In the lower right here, you see the island of Angar with a radar station for IUU detection, preserving many of the reef areas there in the Palau region. And I included this because, ironically, the Secretary of Defense is touching down later this afternoon on the same island. First time a U.S. Secretary of Defense has visited Palau. So it kind of lets the audience know about how the really sort of the spotlight in the Western Pacific is really increasing in terms of needs for more science and technology to help support the challenges out there. Next slide. Moving right along. All right, so pie chart, but this is just really telling you that we did establish an MOU between Scripps and NOAA, and really it's to do autonomous system technology development, facilitating, leveraging many of the tools and techniques coming out of Scripps, and establishing collaborative programs that we can begin learning sort of the challenges of how to operationalize and understanding those often referred to as the valley of death of transitions from research to operations. And so very excited to be able to be participating in this and kicking it off. As I mentioned earlier this month, we signed an MOU between the organizations. Next slide. So the field of unmanned systems is rapidly growing. There's large families of different classes and styles. And I'd like the audience to think of these as different golf clubs for, I'm not a golfer, but I understand you have different golf clubs for different parts of the course. And in the ocean sciences, we really use different types of tools for different applications. And there really isn't a one size fits all. So being able to serve as an honest broker working with mission agencies is a role that Scripps has played really since the inception and development of a lot of these new technologies. Next slide. All right, so now you can actually have an audio track on here too, but just a few examples of how these systems that are robotic in nature can be used for everything from climate monitoring to archaeological habitat surveys to water quality studies. If you watch Shark Week, I'm sure you've seen the Remus UUV getting eaten by a great white shark off the coast of the Atlantic. And the lower right is a wave-propelled platform that you'll hear a little bit later about, which is a ability to get assets out to sea, taking advantage of free propulsion power enabled by ocean waves. Next slide. There's a lot of history here at Scripps and at the Marine Physical Laboratory in particular, developing new technologies, and this is from early 60s, just to show some of the legacy of working with technology and how it enables ocean science. Here at Scripps, I think one of the takeaways I could say is that no longer do you find Scripps scientists in a coat and tie standing on the sand next to the Scripps pier. So you see that picture there in the upper right. These are photographs from Life magazine, which I felt they were really entertaining to see kind of how Scripps scientists worked back in the 60s, at least when the press showed up. Next slide. But what these technologies did were enable discoveries. And in this example, Fred Spiess, with all the marvelous technologies he developed, one of the An example was his discovery of the hydrothermal vents with Ken McDonald and many others, but they were all enabled by the technology of hydrothermal vents in the ocean and the role that they understood to play in the overall seafloor physics and the mantle spread and the plate spread. Thanks. Next slide. The Argo program is a climatological program that's enabled by robotic systems that have a 5-year life. And these really are designed to provide ocean climate measurements. And this has been, from day one, a strong partnership with NOAA to implement the Global Earth Observance System. Next slide. Another example is leveraging the same buoyancy-controlled means of vertically profiling through the ocean are the development of underwater gliders. This is a glider developed here at Scripps. And looking at these transitions to industry, it's actually now being commercialized as the next generation platforms being developed. Next slide. Give you some examples of how it's used. This is a map of it overall in the global footprint. They've got over 100 glider years with this technology. My colleagues here, Dan Rudnick and Russ Davis, and probably in excess now of over 1 million kilometers traveled. And the real power of these units are to be able to sample the interior of the ocean. And on the right-hand side is just a snapshot of the interior of the ocean that would be very difficult to achieve if you didn't have this type of technology. And this has been driven by understanding some of the fisheries problems off the coast of California. Next slide. These fisheries questions really began to surface in 1949 with the collapse of the sardine industry. Everybody on the call here would be very familiar with like the Cannery Row, and Steinbeck sort of tracking that in his fantastic writings. But out of that effort was established a program called Cal Coffee that persists today to do offshore sampling of the fisheries and the physics of the ocean that drive the fisheries. And they still rely on surface ships because it's very challenging to collect all the various biological variables needed with other technologies. But I think we are beginning to see the future now of using unattended and autonomous systems to be able to augment ship-based sampling. And you see here 2 photos of ships, the very first ship that was used and now the most modern vessel in the Scripps fleet, Sally Ride. Next slide. We heard about the role of Coast Guard and NOAA working collaboratively on deploying ocean buoys. These are just some examples of what these buoys actually look like in person. And these are very substantial systems. And there may be opportunities as well to begin looking at how unattended autonomous platforms could augment the traditional moored platforms that support operational oceanography. Next slide. So we have a pilot program to do that very thing. So I'm going to just walk you through a couple examples of that pilot program before I close. So we move on to the next slide. This is a map on the left-hand side, shows you all the ship traffic in Southern California. That's all the what we refer to as a heat map based on the automatic identification system that ships transmit. And line 90 actually represents close to a 200 nautical mile offshore transect that really we traditionally use ships now to go offshore and onshore to sample the ocean and sample the surface waters and the atmospheric and wave conditions along that area. Along that path, there are buoys that are deployed, one up by San Nicolas Island and one at Tanner Bank. So the concept was, could we send a robot off to do the mission that a ship normally would, as well as not get run over? And again, this is with this wave-powered asset that you saw the video of previously. Next slide. So the idea was off of Scripps, begin to use our Scripps pier here as a glider port. This is my colleague Sophia Merrifield deploying one of these assets from the Scripps pier. And the blue line sort of answers kind of the question I posed, that indeed we were able to go offshore 200 miles. We actually occupied this line. This is actual navigation data. You can see how accurate we're following, doing the navigation here. And we were out for close to 3 months, as well as spent time loitering near each one of these assets that are deployed, and data is broadcast by the National Data Buoy Center, an arm of NOAA. Next slide. So very early on in our effort, what we wanted to do is examine how well we could make measurements with these autonomous platforms and how those quality of data look relative to the more traditional assets. So these are just some very quick examples of how well we're doing measuring waves and measuring winds that are normally done by these traditional platforms. And we're getting, regressions on order over 95%. So we're doing quite well so far, but very early on in our study here. Next slide. I think it's now my opportunity to pass the baton over to Vanessa. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. That was great. And thank you to all of our presenters today. I think that was great information. I think we've got a lot of food for the panel discussion. And again, everyone, please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A button. We do have some already teed up, which is great. And also feel free, if you want to be unmuted to ask a question, just raise your hand or do one of the icons to flag that for me. So I invite all of our presenters to unmute yourselves, and I will go ahead and begin the Q&A portion. All right, so our first question is from John Nigley, and he's asking how we're measuring success and by what metrics are you using to measure that? I don't know exactly who is posing that to, but I'm happy to throw that out to the group. Eric, do you want to take it?
Sure, I will. I know when we run projects, we establish metrics up front, more on a technical performance nature of how well things will work. But because we're in the research world, we don't operate in the requirements world. The Admiral, of course, is in procurement. He's very used to what they refer to as requirements. And we have the luxury of doing research to see sort of how well we can do and try to always use excellence as sort of our weather vane to say, let's do better. So we're in a constant state of improvement on the work we do, but we do set at very initial sets of standards. For example, meteorological information, there's a World Meteorological Organization that has a number of standards that we use as our minimum bar to achieve.
Great, thank you, Eric. All right, we've got some questions here regarding international partners. Questions about, do you work with international partners? And if so, what is the intake process for the BTCOE demonstration opportunities with international partners? Jennifer or Admiral Johnson, I pose that to you. Or Peter? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you, Jennifer.
Great. Sorry about that. Yes, we do work with international partners. The best suggestion is to go ahead and email us at our bluetech.uscg.mil. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Let me just look back to that second portion of the question, demos. And yeah, that's something that we can work out on a one-on-one basis. So first, really just reach out to us and we'll start a conversation, but we do meet with people from all around the world.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. I think that answers those questions. All right, we have a question here from Liz Hunter. She says, Blue Tech is going to help Scripps communicate with the Coast Guard to complete their missions in a better way. Can the Coast Guard assist Scripps as well with some data and knowledge share, including temperature, depth, etc., in hard to reach areas such as the Arctic and Antarctic? I feel like there could be a big benefit sharing oceanographic data such as this on both the federal, state, and educational research institutional level.
Yeah, of course there is a big benefit, and we are very open to data and knowledge sharing. The Coast Guard does take scientists to do, measurements, temperature, and other research up to the Arctic on Coast Guard icebreaker Healy and other Coast Guard cutters. So for other specific requests, the Blue Tech COE can certainly connect the inquiries to the relevant branches or leads. So I would suggest for more specific information to go ahead and contact us.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. I think that actually leads into this question pretty nicely from Jeff Demain. He's asking, what do you recommend as first steps to determine if there is joint interest? So if a company or an organization wants to start the conversation, what do you recommend as first steps?
Yeah, certainly. Contacting us, and we will set up a meeting and kind of explore technologies a little bit more in depth and have a conversation and seeing where it can fit into the Coast Guard.
Great. All right, we've got a question here from Beth Calapos. She's asking, can the majority of these technologies and unmanned systems be used on inland lakes, specifically the Great Lakes?
Happy to take that. The answer is yes. And many of these tools that we use to survey the seabed have been used to survey freshwater reservoirs and lakes. We've been involved in search and rescue efforts as well, using similar tools.
Great. Okay, thank you, Eric. If anybody else has anything to add to, please feel free to jump in. But I do have a question here more on the IUU illegal fishing, illegal and unreported fishing, from Martha Shaw. She says, in terms of IUU, does this involve tracing fish shipments to illegal marketplaces?
Hey, this is Tim Gallaudet. I'll talk to that. And the answer is yes. In fact, we use forensic analysis and the environmental DNA and genetic type of processing techniques, which involve some machine learning, to perform that analysis and track the history of seafood product as it comes into the U.S. With the goal of preventing illegal imports from entering our market. So a lot of high tech there to trace and track those kinds of products.
Great, thank you, Admiral Gallaudet. And actually, she had a follow-up to that question with the IUU reporting. Does that also help track federal fisheries and catch data?
Well, yes, that's our job at NOAA Fisheries. We do that. We track that data and use that in our important management decisions in determining, catch limits and quotas, so that we can keep our fisheries to be the world gold standard in sustainably managed fisheries compared to the rest of the world.
Great. Thank you, Admiral Gallaudet. All right, so I have a question here on what you see as some of the next steps and timelines for the Blue Tech Center of Expertise in the first year. For Jennifer or Peter or Rear Admiral Johnston?
Sure, I can take that. Well, obviously right now our plans are a little derailed with COVID. We were really planning to go around to the different districts and get a broad understanding of what's needed around the country. So right now we're doing that remotely, and we are able to meet with people in the Coast Guard, find out what it is, what technologies that they're looking for, and get a better understanding of what the Coast Guard does and does not have. So, those are steps that we're going to be taking eventually down the road. We'd like to see the Blue Tech COE grow, hopefully into, maybe having other Blue Tech COEs around the country. But for right now, it's really communication, building relationships, and really integrating ourselves into the Blue Tech community.
Great. All right. Here's a question, I think, for the group. This is, how can industry work with Scripps and NOAA on outcomes from the recent MOU?
This is Tim. I'd like to talk to that. Yeah, well, in fact, we've identified public-private partnerships as a top priority going forward in innovation and advancing our science and technology capabilities. I think a great area of that is our ocean mapping and use of autonomous systems. We've recently signed agreements with outfits like Ocean X, Vulcan, Caladan Oceanic, and of course Scripps now, the Navy, all for the purposes of advancing our autonomous system applications to ocean exploration, science, and technology. And so we're really excited about that. Ocean Infinity is another firm, and they have a number of very high-end 6,000 meter rated AUVs. So the industry is a critical partner going forward, and I'm sure the Coast Guard would say the same.
Great. Thank you, Admiral Gallaudet. We have another question here from Chris Ward for the group. Is there any programmatic component to this that supports commercialization of these technologies outside the Coast Guard or NOAA?
I can comment some of that. So Scripps, of course, working through the University of California, San Diego, we have a Office of Commercialization. Those technologies that are reach a maturation level and there's enough of a demand signal. Certainly, we have countless examples of those technologies spinning off to industry through various licensing agreements. So I think there is some of it's driven by the appetite of the outside world for blue technology. And you're involved in blue tech directly. It doesn't have that 10x return like a lot of other venture capital minded investments, but I think we're certainly seeing this in the coming decade of recognizing the role of blue tech and some of the possibilities that are out there.
Thank you, Eric. Great. All right, we've got a couple more questions. I think we have time for a few more. This question is from Cheryl Dixon. She comments, I think this is for the Coast Guard. You recommended reaching out to the BTCOE if there is tech that could be of joint interest. How is the BTCOE working with and reaching out to the blue tech community in case the blue tech community is not aware of the center?
Sure. So we are working locally with organizations like TMA Blue Tech. We're attending seminars like this one to try and get the word out. And, you know, we're making connections as widely as we can. We're also working on some marketing materials. We're going to be launching our website soon and hopefully getting the word out that way. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. All right, I think we've got our final question here from Margaret Zulke. As a UCSD staff member that works with data science students, I noticed quite a few references to their skill set with your initiatives. How much domain knowledge is necessary for data science students to support your initiatives? Additionally, how often do you recruit outside of Scripps for talent? Or recruit from Scripps for talent?
I could take a whack at this since it's probably most clearly falls under my lane. So Margaret, I would say, first, thank you for working with the data science students. I think we're certainly seeing an explosion in the need of big data and the tools to actually work with big data. And Tim didn't mention, but there's a whole strategy for artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data within NOAA right now as well. This is a very hot topic, and how to apply data sciences tools to the environment is a growing area. So I would certainly encourage your students to keep that in their eye of where career paths may lay in the future. The domain knowledge, this field that we're in really is a trade craft that mixes a variety of different domains and backgrounds, and really the way to be successful is to be collaborative with people across domains. So we certainly look external to Scripps for talent and personnel to work with to tackle many of these challenges. And so hopefully it doesn't appear as if it's an insular field, because we definitely can't be successful without really looking outside of our organization for partnerships.
Great, we did have one final question pop on I think we have time for. Colin Bishop is asking, how closely does the BTCOE work with end user departments of the Coast Guard in implementing promising new technologies?
Yeah, So we do try to work very closely with departments. Obviously, being located in San Diego, we are building a close relationship with Sector San Diego and up and down the California coast, PAC area. But we are meeting, with different sectors across the country and understanding their needs. And that really is our priority, to understand what the needs are. So yes, we do work very closely.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. And I think that about is time for all of us. So I just want to say thank you again to all of our presenters today. We really appreciate your participation, and thank you again to all of you for attending, for your great questions and for inspiring such a good discussion. Again, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Gwen Nero, who is the Director of Corporate Relations and Innovation here at Scripps Oceanography. We would love to facilitate these conversations even further and explore opportunities for collaboration. So our information is listed there. We have many different programs and avenues to explore collaboration with things like the Scripps Corporate Alliance. So please feel free to reach out to us. Also, we will be having upcoming webinars, and you can find recording of our past webinars on our website. And with that, I will thank you all again for your time and participation and wish you a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yep.
Thank
Vanessa.
you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.